Guten Tag, wie bist du? In response, you might hear Gut, danke. So, what I just said, it might be a combination of Pennsylvania Dutch and German about good day. How are you? Good, thank you. So, welcome to Joellen's Kitchen, where we make Pennsylvania Dutch dishes. As a child, my grandparents spoke fluent Pennsylvania Dutch, and they spoke it when they didn't want us kids to know what they were talking about. I never really picked up the dialect, but there were certain words that I could understand. In fact, I went to the extreme of taking German in high school just so I could pick up a few more words. So that's why I'm not sure, after 60 years, exactly which was the Pennsylvania Dutch and which was the High German. They are different, but you get the picture. It was a part of my culture and heritage growing up, and by making these Pennsylvania Dutch dishes, I'm able hopefully to share that with the next generation and other generations to come, as well as you who are watching today. I've heard so many of you stop me, whether it's at a grocery store, to say, I love watching your videos, or in the Boscow's parking lot to say, I'm trying to learn to crack eggs the way you do. I mean, the comments are just so heartwarming, and I want to say thank you. So I'm a lot busier than I was in the heat of the pandemic, before we had all this education about how the virus operates, before we all had vaccines available. So I'm out and about a lot more, and instead of making a dish weekly, I'm making a dish monthly. Well, that works out pretty good because I'm running out of recipes. But today we're in the fall of 2021, and it's October, and I'm getting just the final tomatoes out of my garden. Some of them are still green because I'm afraid one night it's going to frost and they'll be gone. But I had one ripe one today I'm going to utilize in my vegetable soup that we're going to make. And really, at the end of the season, whatever vegetables you had left, you could throw into a pot and make vegetable soup, and then freeze it or can it so you'd have some throughout the winter. So that's what we're going to do today, and I will end up freezing. Usually start with is about 2 cups of water, and I'm going to use the crockpot method, because that just cooks it nice and slow, and I can walk away from it and get on my way today with meetings and things of that nature. I've also opened 2 boiling cubes. I'm going to drop those in. And then on the bottom, I'm going to put some beef cubes. Now, you can go to the store, and these were $6.99 a pound. So that's not too bad. And with all of the shortages of delivery on goods, I mean, a lot of the shelves are empty in different places. So I'm thinking $6.99 a pound for beef is fairly reasonable. And I got a packet for the bottom layer, because I do like to put it in layers. That way it cooks through and through, and we want to get some good taste in there. Now you can have a beef roast or leftover steak or whatever it is, and you can chop it up into cubes, but with $6.99 a pound for this, it's like, it works because a lot of the other beef was $7.99 a pound, so I figured this is the most economical. And wow, it's convenient too. So I put that in. In addition, for flavoring, I like to add at least a teaspoon of salt. And you can measure it in a teaspoon if you like, but I tend to use my hand. It's just the way Grandma did it. So I'm kind of used to those kinds of things, learning to cook with my grandma and my mother and my great Aunt Sadie. Also, you want to put in maybe 1/4 to 1/2 a teaspoon of black pepper. And then I'm going to put something in that I prepared ahead as well. This is about 1/4 head of cabbage. It's unbelievable how far cabbage stretches. And this is a good filler for the vegetables so that it goes a long way. So I'm going to put in a layer of cabbage. And I might put some more further up too. But that, really fills the pot. So then I also have a small bag of those baby carrots that I cut in halves or thirds, depending how big they were. I'm going to put in a layer of carrots. And I have some, I usually take about a half of a stalk of those celery hearts and chop it. And then I also have a small onion that I'm going to use and put that in. And I think I'll just put all that in. There's a lot of flavor in those onions and that celery. That'll seep throughout. The other thing is, I put in about 2 pounds of potatoes. See if I can get them up here without spilling them. So we want to get a layer of potatoes in there. That's good. And then I think I'm going to go back for some more cabbage. And this is going to be really full, but it's going to cook together somewhat, so don't worry about it. All right. And my lonely little tomato is here on the end, cut into bite-sized pieces. So we're going to stick that in there. And another layer of the carrots, whatever carrots are left. And then what I'm going to pour down through it is a can of diced tomatoes. So if you have these in your cupboard, you can use these, or if you have lots of tomatoes yet, just use fresh ones, that's fine. But don't drain the juice off, put the whole thing in there, and that's just going to make extra juice for your soup. And it'll taste really good. All right, so we have that all in there. And of course, I have that one other little container of meat cubes I'm going to drop in here. And this is going to give at least a dozen servings of soup. It depends how big your servings are. But they're great. That's a pretty big chunk. I'm going to cut that in half. There we go. I tried to get everything out in advance so this would go pretty slick for you, at least for watching. Now preparation time does take a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is cover it, and mine has a snap on the side, and turn my crock pot on high. It's going to go about 5 hours till everything is cooked and the flavor goes in. Once or twice, not too often, you don't want to lose the heat, but once or twice get in there with the spoon and just kind of take the ingredients from the bottom to the top and flip it around, but gently because it's really full. And that's about it to making the soup. It's not that hard, is it? You just have to know what the ingredients are. And like I said, if you have other ingredients that you want to throw in, some green beans or something like that, wax beans, go for it. They're good in soup too. Just so you can see, I got my lid on and it's tight, but it's going to cook together as those vegetables get soft. That cabbage especially is going to reduce in volume. So we'll be back when it's done and we'll taste it together. Thanks for tuning in. So once your soup cooks down, you can add a couple of more vegetables if you like. Lima beans, corn. We mentioned before the wax beans, the green beans. At any rate, we're going to add today a can of corn, and a little bag of lima beans, just for some green color in there. We're going to mix that up a bit. That looks good. Looks really good. So you want to have a bowl handy, and we're just going to try some of our soup. All kinds of good nutrition in there. Give it a second cool.